going to be on, so if you haven't turned your mic on, now's the time. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for coming out, and for those joining online, welcome to tonight's program. Really quick word of how tonight is going to work. This is a hybrid program, so if you have a question in the room at the end, just raise your hand and I'll bring the mic over. Online, if you have any questions, just type them into the YouTube chat and we will get those asked at the end. We have an amazing panel tonight, so I'm just going to jump right into our introduction. Chris Bournet is a journalist, author, and filmmaker based in Columbus, Ohio. He directed and produced the documentary Lady Wrestler, the amazing untold story of African-American women in the ring. Chris is also the author of the novel The Chloe Chronicles, the play The Springtime of Our Lives, and the co-author of the acclaimed nonfiction book All Jokes Aside, Stand-Up Comedy is a Funny Business. Chris was a contributor to the Art, Activism, Action book and the author of the Social Justice Art as Activism article, which is why we're here tonight. Donna Marbury oversaw the creative direction and was the editor of the Art, Activism, Action book, which captured the art created during the 2020 Black Lives Matter movement in Columbus. Previously, Donna was a healthcare, technology, business, and arts and culture journalist who wrote for publications such as Columbus Alive, the Columbus Dispatch, the Columbus Post, ChicagoMusic.org, and AllHipHop.com. Lisa McClymondt is a multidisciplinary artist, graphic designer, and social justice advocate. She is currently a commissioner on the Columbus Arts Commission and was the lead artist and the project manager for the Deliver Black Dreams public mural project located at 479 East 5th Avenue. This is from Lisa's artist statement. Ultimately, I create in the hope that something in the final work shifts someone else's perspective and helps them see the power they have to positively act, whether that be in protest, conversation, or to protect someone unlike them. And finally, Richard Duarte Brown is a master artist with the Transit Arts Youth Program and the Ohio Alliance for the Arts Education's Art in the House program. For more than 20 years, Duarte has dedicated his talent to helping young people in Columbus through countless programs, including Capacity, Kappa's Youth Art Program, the Shortstop Youth Center, the King Arts Complex, Ohio Alliance for Arts Education's Artists in Schools Program, Greater Columbus Art Council's Children of the Future, Ebony Boys, Art Safe, and VSA Ohio. Duarte was the recipient of the 2022 Amina Brenda Lynn Robinson Fellowship, and his murals can be seen throughout the city, bringing comfort and inspiration to countless viewers. And just a quick word on the book Art, Activism, Action. This is a powerful and moving piece of art, and it really is not only a testament to the artistic, creative, and journalistic talent and expertise we have around Central Ohio, but it really captures how art can bring a community together and really make a difference in moving ourselves forward. So I'll turn it over to our panel, and thank you all for joining tonight.
Thank you, Zach. Can everyone hear me? Well, thank you all for being here, and thank you to those who are watching online. Thank you to the Bexley Public Library for hosting this event, and a big shout out to Zach Parrish, who introduced us, who was instrumental in organizing this event. So I wanted to start off by, first of all, saying that this book, Art, Activism, Action, has many, many talented writers and artists from Columbus who contributed. Scott Woods is here in the audience, so those of us who are on stage are just a small representation of the people who made this book possible. And I have to give a huge shout out to the Greater Columbus Arts Council for making this book possible. And so how I got involved with the book, I contributed a couple of articles, is through Donna. So Donna, can you talk about how you got involved with the project and just kind of the genesis of it?
Yeah, and I'm just so happy to be here. We started working on this book in 2021. It was published and released in December of 2022. And so for it to be a whole nother year and this book is still living and inspiring makes me feel really good. So this is a long story short. if anyone was driving around downtown Columbus in 2020, downtown Short North, there was tons of art as a reaction to the protests that were happening in our city around Black Lives Matter, as well as COVID-19. People had time, and a lot of people were reflecting on a lot of the issues that have been going on. And so lots of art was produced. GCAC had the means to create a campaign called Arts Unite CBUS, where artists were commissioned to create art on some of the boards that were used to protect some of the buildings during the protests. They had the mind to take photos and try to preserve those boards as much as possible. However, they had been outside all summer. A lot of them weren't in really good condition, but the art was beautiful and amazing. And so they took photos of everything. Over 200 artists were commissioned. We came in kind of at the tail end of that as Warhol and Wall Street marketing agency, where we were able to take all of those photos and come up with a theme. And so the idea was this book where we were just really intentional. The creative direction from my colleagues was just really amazing, because we were able to look through the catalog of all of those photos of the artwork and create the story. So this book is full of art, but like you mentioned, it's also full of stories, not only from the artists, but activists who were on the street during those times, as well as people, community leaders, lots of folks. So yeah, it was a labor of love, and I'm glad we were able to document that time.
Right. So Duarte and Lisa, the article, one of the articles that I wrote, I interviewed you both about the murals that you created that were on display at the Vanderelli Room, which is, of course, owned by A.J. Vanderelli. So can you talk about those murals that you created and how you got involved in that process?
Are they murals from being hung up downtown? Sorry, I'm still back downtown.
Yeah, well, yeah, just...
That's like Franklinton.
They went on and they... Okay, because I wanted to say that I was working at Kappa, and I had only just started there 3 months before the pandemic started, and then the protests happened. So that was March to May. I was on my couch. And the Ohio Theater was one of the first places damaged during the protest. So I was one of the first artists who was invited to do something through Kappa and GCAC. And I brought together some artists, and we did the first mural, and it was really exciting to see. Within, I think a week, Duarte was there, Francesca was there, Shelby was there on our block, and then it just rolled out all over downtown in the Short North to GCAC's offices. So that was exciting to see. So the impetus for me was being able to have a place to share my thoughts and walk away, the frustration of what was happening, and have some community and camaraderie and support for the protesters. So that's where it started for me. By the time it hit Vanderelli Room, I had some pushback in my own heart about how fervent the excitement was to save the murals when the murals were created because there were lots of lives being taken. So I had a lot of frustration about it. Today, I'm really glad that the murals were saved and recorded in this way, that more people can enjoy it, that we could still feel the impact of it. But in the end, we still have a problem. So I'll just end on that.
And Duarte, how did you get involved in?
I was part of an incubation program at the Lincoln Theater, and I think that everybody wanted to do something. So they asked Francesca and I to come up with a plan. Then when we showed up, I had seen Lisa's stuff already being done, so we were just in the middle of it. So, and it's my natural reaction to paint or make before you know it. So it's almost like that's what I would be doing. And I think they think I don't face life, but that's the way I face life, by painting. So I didn't, even when we were out there painting the murals, I didn't realize they were broken glass under the boards till I went to the bathroom and said, oh, this is broken wood. My mind was still in some other place. And then my son had seen some stuff on the news where some things were going really bad. He was worried about me. And my mind wasn't thinking about none of that. I just wanted to be part of doing the work or the art, because that's the whole thing. The part of doing something was that part for me.
Something that I wrote in the article, now you tell me if this is true, my interpretation of our conversation is that your mural depicts the despair you had at Black people losing their lives to police violence. Was that part of the inspiration?
Basically, the first mural I did was about a kid who was graduating from school, and the kids were afraid. So many parents, since I work with after-school programs, and we from shortstop over 30 years, I can give you a book full of dead people where we did rest in peace shirts from, somewhere from acts of violence between neighborhoods, other things. But the cop one goes way back to Reginald Denny. Is that who he is? The old guy, Reginald Denny. Is that who's the guy that?
Reginald Denny was the trucker who was like dragged out of his car.
Yeah. So my mind's, Rodney King.
Oh, Rodney King.
So I'm still living in Rodney
back.
King, so it's like that was never solved in my mind. So it's like this. Sometimes you're like in a psychological time warp, and the painting is a way to navigate around for me. It's almost just being here again, just with you guys again. It's hard not to come here knowing that year, a few major artists in our city like Walt Neal and Fioris West passed away. And then I was talking to her and found out that another guy that I hold dearly to my heart was a part of ACE. He was gone that year. So I had a little frustration from, because I wanted to honor these Black artists that already had served us. And when we were painting murals, I was in a skating board place in my mind. So, but did I even answer your question?
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
But just a whole lot of stuff playing in there, because you're trying to find a resolve from something. And I really wanted, people thought I had painted dead kids when they were coming by, and they were saying, well, when did he die? Well, I didn't want to paint dead kids. I was trying to paint kids that we were fighting for. Like, the whole idea was to see our kids live. So it was right away, I didn't want to, you understand? Like, that was, this was a hope. It was like the idea of finding resilience. And you see that in these kids, like somehow, like we're dealing with war in Israel. We're dealing with stuff on the news. We're dealing with inflation and everything on a serious level. And you come to school and these kids are hungry and they can't meet some needs, and you look at them acting out. So the art for me was a whole natural therapeutic thing. And in my mind, I just believe that art has the power to heal. Like, if you go from that gut place, if you're just painting from a place of there, so you don't know, all the stuff falls into place later,
Lisa, similar to that, do you feel the same that like creating the mural was kind of like not only an artistic outlet, but an emotional outlet for the emotions?
Yes, absolutely. Art is definitely an emotional outlet. It's a means to create conversation, a means to try to put some thoughts out and change the world, a vehicle for hope is a big one for me. While I am activated by the negative headlines, I'm trying very hard to change that thought into something that could be useful to others instead of just being angry at the world, because there's a lot to be angry about. And if we lose hope, then we lose everything. So really just trying to use my art to lift somehow.
I think I'm going to write that quote down. If we lose hope, we lose everything. That's so true. So this is for all three of you. Why does public art matter, and how can it bring visibility to issues? And this is an outdated term, but I don't know a better term: police brutality. Why can something like art maybe not necessarily change someone's mind who thinks that the police have the right to do whatever they want, but how can art at least start a conversation among people about issues like that?
Well, from a public art standpoint, wearing my commissioner hat, there's community art, public art, and then there's public art. So it's like you put big money into buying in big names to come and give us some art, and that's great, and that generates conversation. But what happens here in our community, it doesn't get as much money, but it gets invested in, so we can connect with each other. So to me, it's about connection. The art has a purpose, you know, along many lines, along many themes, but ultimately it's to create connection, create conversation, and build toward a future. That's really the vision that I see public art having.
Do art or Don?
Literally, like, you go to the cave paintings and they're telling you what's going on, and it's archive, it's history. What is it, the handwriting on the wall in the biblical book of Daniel, you know, when you're working with graffiti, you know, the gangs say, this is my territory, you mark your area. When a business tears things down and builds something in, it marks it so it saves it for these kind of people not to live and them kind of people not to live. So the public art almost declares the community. So it's like, if this is a community, it says what we want. It's a beacon, it's a light. It's like, it's the vibe of the people. And so it's like, the public art says who we are, it kind of like invites people or keeps people out. So it's, from that perspective, it's just been always a thing for me to like look for opportunities to go from there. I mean, it's just like it just is intuitive or natural. So it's like it's got to be done, or it just testifies of who we are. So it's from that perspective, that's what I feel about it.
Yeah, I would say from working on this book, I really realized that public art is more than just the aesthetic. It's actually the pulse of the community. And, you know, artists are the working class for the most part. Like, they pay taxes, their kids go to our schools, they have healthcare issues, getting insurance, all of the things that regular people deal with, but they have a way of expressing it that grabs attention, that is eye-catching, that people can see. And they may not, as a writer, they may not read the newspaper, but they can see something that expresses the pain or the anguish or what this community is going through. And so I think the work that you all do and that's represented in this book is more than just, it's pretty, you know, but it's, but it's more than that. It is really the pulse of the community. And, you know, I just have a belief that, you know, y'all need to be at the table when some of these decisions are being made, because not only do you understand it, but you can articulate it in a way that grabs people and helps them to understand it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Donna, is that, you know, as a writer, someone may not, you know, you said read the newspaper. Very few people read physical newspapers anymore, but they may not click on a story. But even just driving by a mural or a piece of public art, it's like seeing a billboard. It's like it gives you a message instantly that you know you can process later. So at the height of the protests following George Floyd's murder, and then immediately afterward, you know, public art created around those issues was so public. There was so much visibility. There were people, you know, putting the black square on Instagram. I mean, there were, you know, all these diversity, equity, inclusion programs were created. Do you feel like that visibility is still there? I mean, we're only, what, a few years away from the height of the protests, but, you know, at least in my mind, it seems like things have just kind of, I don't know, the visibility has decreased. Do you agree, or?
I mean, you're literally seeing the dismantling of all of these programs in a lot of public spaces, corporate spaces, in government spaces where programs that were developed to push people of color ahead are being snatched away. So it was very performative. So I think we all know that and are seeing that there's been a specific backlash against that. But I will say, I think within our community, this is just my feeling, and maybe y'all feel different. I definitely felt like we came together. It was great to see. I think what happened in 2020 was a multi-ethnic, multi-generational art movement, and what happened in Columbus did not happen in other cities. Mm-hmm. Like, it was a movement that was happened here with our experienced artists as well as our activists who were working before this. and are continuing to work now. And so that's not lost on me, that it's a very unique situation that we're in Columbus that is moving the needle. So I did feel a little...
I completely agree.
Yeah.
We would not be muralists if it weren't for the protests. I was not going to stand on a ladder out in all the elements to do a thing. But I do that now. Like I'm proud to say that that's something I can add to my skill set. I loved being able to interact with the community. Our community, our arts community is so powerful. There is so much here and there's so much support. An amateur can find support and get a lift to get the confidence to grow. And we saw that happening on the street that month. I mean, there was so much activity. So the book, to me, as I flip through it, it triggers all the memories of that and passion behind it and all of the allies and relationships that came out of it. I'm so glad that it all happened. I'm sad that it happened. It was a catalyst because of a terrible thing, but we have come a long way. As far as the DEI programs and all of the benefits that people were trying to hand out to people of color, they were being snatched away because they weren't given truly thinking that it was deserving. I think, to your point, it was performative in a lot of ways. And I hope that maybe the pendulum swings and it evens out and all the allies speak up and we continue to speak up as people of color, as Black people, because we're not going anywhere, so. And more of us are getting into places where we can speak up and help guide a conversation. My partner calls it helium hands, but I'm really thankful to have been invited to join the Public Art Commission, because now I have a better understanding of what it takes to submit a work and ask to have a work done, or be invited to do that, or just find the right terminology to build on to learn how to make a sculpture even. I want all that for Columbus, so.
Did you say helium hands?
Helium, yes.
Like,
oh,
like
yes, I
lifting-
would like to, yeah.
Okay, you're just dropping quotes left and right.
Right.
I have to credit Pat Sheridan for that.
Okay. Duar, what are your thoughts on, whether there's still visibility for these issues?
Sometimes when you live 30 or 40 years and watch when we were saying loud, we were Black and proud, and then we became multicultural, and funds dried up, and a lot of places went away, and you see like this mountain thing go up and down. So it's like, I don't know what else to really say except, it's here today and it's gone tomorrow. And if you make art for, there's a need to make what I make, to make it in fine places and key places. That's why I kind of make art with kids, or not just kids, but around people that make art. Because my mind is to stay there, because that gives me some sense of sanity. What exactly is the question, so I can answer it a better way?
Yeah, there was so much visibility for the murals that you and Lisa, and other people created in the art, the public art that you all, that artists like yourselves created during the protest and in the immediate aftermath. And do you feel like there's still that same visibility and consciousness about the issues you were creating art about, or people are just distracted by other things now?
Honestly, I just feel like it's part of the pendulum of the way things go, and who's in charge for a while and who leaves. I've just seen this same thing happen over and over again, and just now there's more money given to artists here in the city, which is exciting, and I'm glad about that. Me personally, I really don't want to do murals because they don't really seem to last, and if Walt Neal's murals are gone and Fioris West's murals are gone and people that Tom Dillard, they're gone, a part of me feels a little bit like these guys are gone. I want to teach who the guys were that built us. So I feel like there's a void here for me in the public, when you go by the Boys and Girls Club and you can't see Fioris's mural no more. And these things were invested in, redone, schools built them up. But somehow we didn't, I don't know what to do different about that, but I feel like some part of me can't ignore that. And it's just like, I know Lisa has a cry for the indigenous people, so do I. So it's like, when we say goodbye Columbus, we didn't say hi to anything new. So, or that felt it, was just like, tease me, huh? So there's a part of me that doesn't know how to say what I say in a nice way. So there's a little frustration deep down inside about public art in that sense. And so, I've known some other artists that know how to do big bronzing sculptures, but that's not something that's at our table setting. You know, like the idea of a father coming to a table and preparing a way. There's lots of training for artists, but I don't even know how to, to cast mold a big, $40,000 sculpture, or how to submit to nothing like that. That would be more permanent than a mural. I have visions for stuff like that, but I don't know how to get to that. So I figured if I invested into the next generation, they'll be equipped, know how to make the proposals for the big pieces of art that go in hospitals and hang in the ceiling or hang in artways. So I think, like Lisa talked a little bit about that, she says at the table, there's a way to help that get in our hands, but it's not in our hands. Or, somebody that did do it here that's in Texas now, did big sculptures that are around the King Center and places. But a part of me can't ignore the people that were here. That's the whole premise of Sankofa, is to go where it is and bring what was there and push it forth. And it's hard to move forward without like holding on to what these guys built. Now, if you go on Livingston Avenue, there's this Smoky Brown mural that's still on the dental place that nobody's harmed. And it's that kind of stuff is like tranquil. And I think it's something about a mural that doesn't get defaced and doesn't get torn down, and that was done with not a lot of support. But it's historically, that's a piece that should somehow be, I don't know. I just feel like that's kind of how I feel, if that makes sense. So I'm hopeful for the other people that'll get to do these opportunities, but I don't feel like that. I'm probably missing the place where I'm not either skilled enough, or I don't have the right people around me enough to know how to get one of those bigger jobs that pays me for like a year to build this sculpture and it stays permanent. And if I could have this Comfort Humanity bronze sculpture stuck right in the middle where everybody fight, or right in the middle where people don't expect to see it, it would be this thing where people are comforting humanity. Because I think deep down inside of us, we have a cry to make that one piece that stays forever. And so that's kind of how I feel about it inside. But realistically, as long as I get a chance to keep making art with people while I can, that to me is my, cup of coffee, or my public art. If I'm in watching young people like come in and have their very first show in public at the Vanderbilt Room, which is leaving, and then they get a chance to go in there and be treated like artists, for real. And even if they don't have a degree, or they don't have the lineage, or if they don't have the family fathers in their life, that experience of public community is so penetrating and so invigorating that it would be the thing that it's like this. It's this person that was born without the spoon, and they get a glimpse of something they can be because they accidentally walked into a room. Oh, this is how it's done. And the next thing you know, this person that didn't have any of the silver spoon stuff has enough tenacity and vigor and drive to go and do something that nobody expected them to do. So I think public art really has a way of igniting that for us. And we've called it graffiti art, we've called it street art, we've called it a lot of things. But even if you look at when the kid gets murdered here and the teddy bears are on there and all the rags is up there, or the shoes are hanging in the ceiling on the wire, and we look at that, that is our public art. And realistically, it's going to be done regardless if we get, it's going to be done because it's a need for everyone to express, articulate, or hold on to that moment that they had with life, or someone they love that they lost. And it's an altar to humanity, and it comes in every kind of way. So
it's a legacy being.
Yeah, it's public art is that.
I'll ask one more question, then we can open it up to the audience. And Duarte, you just kind of touched on this, but so one of the themes of this program is, what is the future of public art? So what needs to be done to increase the amount of public art in Columbus, both public art that draws attention to social justice issues, but just public art that's just there to be pleasing to the eye? Do we need to, tap into organizations like Greater Columbus Arts Council?
Well, they're tapped down.
Yeah. Do we need to get, local and state government involved, to try to get, to your point, Duarte, permanent installations that won't be painted over or won't be damaged? Do we need to have more public art like the Long Street Bridge, where that's a permanent mural? At least we think it's permanent. What needs to be done to create more public art in Columbus?
A big thing I want to say is that murals are a small aspect of public art, so it's not all public art. I think it's the most accessible place for many artists to take part in a community, a vocal voice of their creativity. So yeah, sculpture would be a nice permanent thing, and it costs money, and where do you get that money? So it's a conversation between the government, between corporate entities, other nonprofits, and the community to build on this thing. And if we don't all come together, then projects don't get built, and the money keeps going out of the city to others to give us those sculptures. It is obviously my desire to see more local artists get the lift like that, to have some sort of permanence and a piece of their voice built into the legacy of Columbus. I would love to see that. I don't know exactly what it would take to get there just yet. I just know that money is a big part of that conversation, and how it's put together and who says what goes is another piece of that. Are they at the table when we're all sitting here having the conversations? If they're not, then this is just a conversation.
Yeah, over the summer I went to Montreal, and I was just walking down the street just randomly and stumbled into this park, and there was a sculpture of, I don't know how you pronounce his name, Toussaint Louverture, the historical figure who was instrumental in the Haitian Revolution and overthrowing the French colonizers. And I thought, here's a French-speaking region, but someone saw the value of public art honoring someone like Toussaint Louverture. I mean, do you think we could have something like that in Columbus, or?
It's so interesting. I am torn on the idea of yet another sculpture of one human. Unless it's a program where you're really giving notice about lots of different humans throughout the city, I don't know that that's a big priority. I mean, we're still fighting over the Columbus statue, so.
And I wrote an article with you about what would become of that space, that the Columbus statue. And you had this beautiful rendering of this like indigenous culture.
Thinking I'd put all the thoughts out there.
Yeah, it was like interactive, and you walk through it and you sit with it and experience it.
Oh my God, I put so much into that thing.
You did.
I was really, awesome. Like I want to get engagement. I want it to look that. I want it to, I have a lot of wants.
I mean, I believe in documentation. So I appreciate artists, well-known and very amateur new, who are able to be documented in this process. I think that lives forever. For us to be able to create a book was very unique because it was difficult, it's expensive. This is a custom book. It took us a really long time to get it, where it needed to be. And so, but I think it presents the beauty of what everyone was doing. So I appreciate documentation of artists and their processes.
Right. Does anyone here in the audience or anyone online have a question? Yes, sir.
I've been struck by kind of two parallel threads, one permanence and one spontaneity. The art that you started talking about was triggered by an event, and it reminds me, in terms of old people and Tom Dillard and so on, Flag Wars was another place where art helped create dialogue about an issue long ago. So I guess my question about permanence and spontaneity is the challenge of art as it relates to activism, from your perspective, an opportunity to precipitate dialogue in the moment that may or may not turn to action, or is there a thread that you see that you think needs to carry itself through time? Does that make sense?
No, I love that. And I feel like the art done in protest by artists like me, we went to release and give this art and then walk away. That was a gift to the city or an opportunity to have that platform. And it was, done at that point for us. So to see it live on for a few years was a huge bonus that none of us ever expected. So to me, that art is the reactionary art is super important. The thread from there is the rest of the conversation that Columbus needs to commit to having. So how do we build these thoughts and desires and take them forward through public art in a permanent way, get engagement and keep that going. So it's not just, decoration that you're walking by and you're ignoring. Like you buy a piece of art and you hang it up and you walk by it for 2 or 3 years. Do you still see it? You might still love it, but maybe you should move it around. Yeah, so I have thoughts on the permanent part, but I think that is the next step of where we are now. Everybody that was activated and had a voice, how do we keep them engaged so they can grow with the city?
Thanks. Sorry, I'm going to stand up for a second. Sorry for coughing a lot. I'm not contagious. I just have cancer. So, and to that point, during the 2020 summer protests and everything, I could not go out and protest because I'm kind of bubble girl a lot. So on my end, I was trying to do what I could, donate to the, King's Art Complex, or purchase independent bookstore gift cards and everything to support the artists and put money for the protesters and everything like that. So I feel like even if you can't participate, you can participate on your own terms and everything. So I will start with when you brought up the Columbus statues. I think it's really important to call things out. Columbus was called out in his own time and ostracized, him and his brother. And I don't know why we're revisiting this. I have teenage boys and they're learning about Columbus, and it's like, even in his own time, he was not celebrated, he was ostracized. So why are we, whitewashing and giving some rise to somebody who when he was alive, they didn't like him then. Okay, so 400 years later, don't need to talk about him anymore. I think there's so much more we could be celebrating than someone who was a terrible person and never even set foot on the continent, so whatever. But in terms of art, and it's not just visual art, but music and books, obviously the culture, that's our civilization. We just came off Banned Books Week. And, I really think that that's the voices that, people are trying to cancel, and book saves lives. People see, James Baldwin talked about, I'd feel alone and then I'd read and I feel connected now, and people need to see themselves in those art. You think about the Dark Ages, and people were canceled for ideas, locked away, and the Age of Enlightenment, our country literally exists because of the Age of Enlightenment. Libraries gave us civilizations and everything like that, So art is what teaches us empathy and teaches us understanding and teaches us perspective. And, I think it's great when you get art and put it into books, and then people, it's fusing those things that's the culture. And when people are banning things, they're literally banning culture, So it really just drives me nuts to have these same conversations where people are trying to erase people, and this is what makes us people, is the art, That's what else matters, in life. This is the things that drive us. So my only question is last year I read this book by Ohio author Celeste Ng called Our Missing Hearts, and it's about art as protest. And as you know, during COVID, also the Asian American community was attacked and, ridiculed and blamed for COVID and all kinds of, you gotta call out the racism, and saying that stuff. But she wrote this amazing book where authoritarianism is coming to America and they're trying to silence people and they're using, public art to raise awareness of they're taking our voices, they're taking our children, they're taking our lives and everything. So I just wondered, have you guys read that book? Have you found inspiration on like bringing, with your own book of fusing like visual art with literary and music and things like that? Have you noticed like those kinds of things bring us together with the books that we read and stuff? Sorry.
Me and my son is here. We watch Hamilton all the time.
Oh, me too. It's my favorite.
So one thing they say, you have no control over who lives, who dies, who tells your story. So some of these things are really outside of our control.
Right.
Artists are very amazing people because, like you said, you create something, you walk away from it, and they have a different brain. You create something because it was in your spirit or your heart or whatever at that time, and what happens to it happens to it. If it touches one person, I feel like it did its job. And I'm speaking on behalf of y'all. Y'all do this.
You can speak for me on that.
I would say, as a Black person, I've often felt like things are taken away from me at any point in time. So the fear of that doesn't really bother me that much because of the community. There's never a day that I can go without finding like art that speaks to me or speaks of someone else's culture. In Columbus, a mile down the street, you have Streetlight Guild, which has programming every day of the last month with poetry. So there's art everywhere. It's up to us to tap into it and dig into it. The mainstream is always in flux. So I think, social media is a great way to connect with the artists who are here, who are working in spite of what is being banned and what is being legislated and all of those things. So it's not a fear to me, but
Same, I agree. I'm so sorry. I want to put a plug in. There's a Art Unbound show at the Public Art Library, Columbus Library next year, and I don't know the exact date, but a lot of artists are using banned books in their art pieces. I also want to comment to the Christopher Columbus. My understanding is the sculpture was given to us from Italy, at least the one that was downtown, and that was Columbus State had one.
Yeah.
There was two that I knew of.
The State House.
State House one is the one I'm talking about. So that one was removed, and over the last year, or a little bit more than a year, there have been committees talking about this. So Italian people want to keep their recognition. It was given to Columbus to give recognition to the Italians that are here that helped build the city because they were treated as other, much like Black people are treated as other. Italians back then were treated as other.
Italy as well, to work in the coal mines.
I wanted to bring that back up because today, since the Columbus statue was removed, I, as a person of color, and when I talk about the indigenous, they were here before us. They should get that platform.
Right.
And Black people should get that platform.
Right.
Immigrants of any sort should get that platform next. Because the Italians are established and they're white people now. So
Right. Right.
So I just wanted to say that to what you were talking about. I agree with everything Donna said otherwise. I think you can trip over art experiences here. Spoken word, writing, books, visual art, jewelry.
Kappa too, like they had Do the Right Thing this summer, and it was really, really powerful about how I feel like more.
Yeah, they do great programming too.
Have more diversity in all kinds of different.
What is it? The contemporary they're going by now. Theater is another really. Please support theater. They work so hard and they don't get paid enough. So.
Yeah, I just want to say we wish you good health. Thank you for being here. Yeah. It's another question.
Yeah.
I just had a comment. When we talk about art, either in the indigenous community or African Americans, the way that African American people dress, the way they set their tables, the things they cook, that is a form of art that
Absolutely.
no matter how oppressive a culture can be, there's people down south that may not like black people, but they were eating the food they cooked.
Absolutely.
And that is
Food
a
is an
form
art.
of art, and that kept us survive. And with indigenous people, their clothing, if you look at, Chris and I have a strong Native American background, as all of us probably do. Their clothing, the things that they say, the language that they still remember, that in some tribes are teaching, that is a form of art, and that is so
Absolutely.
powerful because art at the end of the day is communication.
Yes. Yes.
That was my mom, Shelley, so of course I have to agree with everything she said.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Jamie, did you have a question?
If there's an online question.
There is one. Awesome. Someone asked, did the events of 2020 solidify the art community together? Does the art community seem stronger to artists now since creating the art during the protests?
I want to say that the protest was one lift. The community was already super strong. There's so many different objectives going on. Even on Facebook, the Art and Artist Hub community it started in 2014, I think, and before that, I mean,
What is it?
we're in waves.
Wasn't it the artist of the 614? What was that? Did y'all start
Art and
that?
Artists of 614. I was one of the
Yeah, I
people
remember.
that
It
started
was like
that group.
so many artists all along.
Yeah, and it's like tens of
That's
thousands
gone
of
different
people,
ways.
and I
Got all these pockets of people.
much now, but yes, decades. So yes, the art community has always been here. It's super strong. Because it's always been here, it's stronger now. I think that the protest brought circles of the community together as far as black and white, because there's a strong black art community and the rest of the art. So now more of us are talking and collaborating together, and that's pretty exciting for someone like me to see, who was shaped by this community. Anybody else? No?
Yeah, no. Oops, sorry, I'm not used to this boot yet. I'm Jamie Goldstein with the Greater Columbus Arts Council. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being part of the book. Thank you, Scott, and everybody who has enjoyed this book. It really was a labor of love, but we couldn't have done it without the artists and the wonderful folks at Warhol and Wall Street, and who came up with such a great creative vision. So thank you to all of you. The conversation about public art is very important because it does create community. It brings us together in ways that certainly social media doesn't, certainly the news doesn't, but we can have a conversation around public art. We're leading the conversation around public art right now. We're creating a comprehensive public art plan for the City of Columbus, thanks to City of Columbus funding and Franklin County funding, and we're gonna come out of it, not just with a plan, but hopefully the means or a plan to get the money to fund it and to make it a community conversation. And really, we're trying to bring in everybody's voice into this. So there's a survey that's still up, takepartcolumbus.com. Go to takepartcolumbus.com and select engage. And if you're an artist, you can take an audio survey, which is really cool. Marshall Shorts and Jonna Twig, two artists in our community, are leading the public engagement section. Or you can just answer the paper survey online, the online survey, and give us your thoughts about public art. It's really important. We want to hear from you because we want to make this a plan with the community, not for the community.
Thank you.
One more online question. Someone asked, Donna, the book has not only archives of the art created, but it has video and multimedia, and as well as journalism pieces. They asked if you could talk about the creative process of bringing that all together to really capturing what was happening.
Yeah. So the book includes over 200 visual artists, but at the same time, there was a lot of stories to capture as well. And so I was able to pull together a lot of local writers to help tell those stories. A lot from the artists themselves, from activists, because they were the ones out on the street, community leaders, as well as just things that happened during that time. We were going through COVID and shutdowns, so there's articles about what that means to the art community to not have a voice. There's a story in here about Soul Classics, which is a sneaker store in the Short North, and their window was busted out. And the owner of the store is like, well, this is our fault as a community. Like, I'm not about to be mad at these people who broke my window because the conditions to break the window shouldn't have been there in the first place. So, and just hearing from artists, I mean, there's so many stories in this book that we didn't even capture, and there's things we didn't even capture. I remember one of the photo shoots we were on, someone told me that they were outside painting and somebody like threw a can of beer at them while they were painting. And her mama was like, come home. And she's like, no, I gotta finish this painting. Like things like that. There was a lot going on, there was a lot. Also, this book has a lot of like QR codes in it. So not only were there visual artists, writers, but there are dancing, poetry, lots of active movement art that's a part of the book. And luckily, because of technology, you can experience that in the book as well.
Anybody that's here before you leave and you want to try some of these, Dante Wood Spikes.
Yeah, there's documentaries in
Sterling
the book.
Carter,
Yeah.
Barbara Fant, Breonna Rhodes, beautiful dancer. There's QR codes all through this, so try and flip through this and use your phone to activate before you go.
Do you have copies to sell?
No.
Fortunately, there were a limited number of books distributed.
Yeah, I mean, we were able to give each of the artists involved a book. Two books.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 books. As well as any organization that helps sponsor. And then the rest of the books were sold. I don't know if there are books left. Maybe at Experience Columbus, maybe in some of the museum shops. But all of the libraries have the book. So it's
Access.
Yes. So
And
it
is there a website
accessible.
too that if they don't have the book, is there a website they can look through the book?
No, we never.
No.
Oh, okay. Is the Art Unite C-Bus site still up?
I'm sorry.
Is the Art Unite C-Bus site still up?
Our United Bus site is still up, and it does have a map showing where all of the murals were originally on the streets.
So that's a nice little archive.
And there's a gallery of artists that we try to create. So artunited.com, you can go to that. It's not the format of the book or with the writings of the book, but yeah, check out your libraries.
But all the public libraries in Central Ohio?
Yes.
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 Yeah, there's a question back here.
Not much of a younger. So with art as activism, I feel like there's usually 2 routes to go. There's usually appealing to the oppressor, or Banksy's quote, "Art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comforted." What are your feelings about those 2 approaches, and which one do you think is more effective?
I'm trying to make sure I hear what you said. There's 2 ways to go. You serve. Say that. Can you say that just a little louder, because it was muffled.
So there's
slightly.
the approach of appealing to the oppressor, and then, as Banksy said, art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. Which one do you like? How do you feel about both of those approaches, and which one do you think is more effective?
Yeah. There's a lady named Adrienne Hood in the city whose son was murdered by a cop, and she's running for city council, and she does the art of healing. She did her first one at the Lincoln Theater, and I worked with her, and we painted these pictures of all the dead relatives, and the people came in from different places. And what I mean by dead, I'm sorry, forgive me for not speaking so clearly, but what I'm saying, she had us paint a picture of the other people that lost a child to murder by cops. And so they created this whole support group. And so she wanted to get them past the anger and the anguish of losing their kid with a narrative spread all over media and however it went down, to have a night of healing, to paint the faces of the kids in a place where you can walk and see them, their family comes in. I was the artist that did some of that, or that. And one lady had a daughter who was murdered. And so when you look at all these faces of kids that were murdered and you're painting for these people, it's a roller coaster of emotion. There's a need for a healing that can come from it. To make a point about what I was trying to say, one of the ladies, mother of a daughter that came, was really upset because of the circumstances around everything and the unanswered injustice, and of course the memory and the familiarity and the loss and everything. Well, a sister of the mother's daughter came by because it's her sister, and she was stunned why somebody would paint, that doesn't know her sister, would paint a picture of her sister to give to the mother. And so there's a whole lot of whatever you call healing in that. So I'm stuck on that in the sense of another picture of a boy that was 3 years old. Now he's, whatever age he was 5 years old. Or maybe he was younger. I'm mixing up the numbers because it was an emotional roller coaster being in that room, watching the people react to the paintings. The boy goes to try to hug his picture of the father, because I didn't put them in squares. I painted them like shaped, and they were sitting on these reachable easels, and so people walked in a room. So it was done in a way where you had a tablecloth and they got to go see another memory of the goodbye of the lost one. So, and she's done it again where they've done poetry and stuff with it. And the process of her doing this has broken some of the hurt off her, because there's a need for us to heal some kind of way and navigate or make sense out of stuff. And as she reaches out to other people, now in the process of it, there's a lot of rough stuff that comes with it. So I think that just the act of offering we do it in sympathy cards if you can't make a painting. So we know that making a picture of someone will do something, but it doesn't bring the person back, but it gives you something that it gives people all over. This particular year, we did it again it was 3 year span, and she raised a little money, and we were going to get other people to do it, but it's kind of hard to get everybody to do their art or rate somebody who's not even an artist, because she had this vision. She's not an artist or painter. She's just a person that's trying to heal and trying to help other people heal. And all the stories that come in it, this year we did these paintings for her, and actually I'm still finishing 7 pictures because I'm telling you more stuff than maybe you should. But I decided to use paper towel to paint these pictures, because paper towel is something we throw away. And I didn't understand it all until they asked me to explain the pictures. And I was saying, how we're finished with a paper towel and we throw away the paper towel. Well, any life that's murdered is never really thrown away. It's always picked up. It's redeemed some kind of way, eternally or in the spirit of. So I use this texture so they can touch the picture and hold on to the memory. And so even though they split the honoring of dead ones with poetry and paintings, when some woman comes to you and says, how much would you charge to paint a picture, it's almost like it's a no-brainer. You're going to paint this picture if you stay up late. So you don't socialize that. You don't show it on social media. If they share it, you share it. But then you get a chance to be a part of another family. So it doesn't really end. To me, I can answer from that spot of that. Giving someone something that's grieving or suffering, or it can't go wrong. I'll tell you one thing that did happen. One of the ladies came in, she saw it the first year, she said, that is not my son, his lips too big, his skin's too yellow, But I felt there was an honor on fixing the picture at whatever cost it was, because she got the chance to tell me what was wrong and be appeased or be listened to or be cared for. So the whole process of dealing with someone that is dissatisfied with something you did, of course someone said, well, he did the painting for you and he did that. But regardless of all that, this lady still don't got a son, so we repainted the picture and got somebody that can draw a little bit more accurate to me, a kid named Malik, and had him fix his face for me, and then took it back to her and gave it to her, and she really didn't say thank you, but we still wanted to honor her. And I'm just going to tell you, that's the part of it. It's real. And this year, one of the ladies that came there, I'm probably telling you way too many things, she came in there with the intent to kick everybody's A, because she didn't like none of them, and you know, other B's and stuff in there that lost their kids, because she knows there's a lot of hurt and anger. Well, I explained to them that I use toilet paper for texture, paper towels so you can feel the face and da-da-da-da-da. And I said, these feel like family. So the tears aren't sadness, it's a tear of like, the public art will pull something from you. It'll put something in you. It'll give you that last little ounce of whatever it takes, whatever you face. So, but this lady that had one tooth missing from Chicago, she came around the corner and said, honey, that picture you painted of my son, his name was Richard too. I feel like you my family. I've been trying to get somebody to paint this picture for 7 years. And that just, oh my God. And she started crying and hugging me. But then I found out later, she told the lady that does this thing, she was gonna kick everybody's A. And when she took her to the airport, she said, did I do good? She said, you sure did, honey. But what I'm saying, what is that but public art? I mean, it's not like, I don't know what else to say to you. I mean, you know what I mean? When you get to experience something like that, you don't have to tell everybody, because this woman comes to me and say, I give her a son. My name is Richard Duarte Brown, but his name was Richard too. And he was, you know, you see these faces, you see men lose kids. I watched, so if you paint or create from your spirit, many times you'll tap into things and not know. You pick their favorite color, you put a crown on her head, you do some of that stuff, and then they come back. So it's very pastoral, and it's very, very community building. It's very, very long term. So it's like these people quietly know what goes on. The people that are around me know. And so Adrian's going to get the last 7 of those tomorrow. We're working on those still, because some stuff like that is just a work. Like it doesn't finish. The protest doesn't really end. The protest is like, or the art of protest never really ends. The book marked something that happened, but it still goes on in ways like Katarina sitting in there. She made a mural downtown. I feel like it's good for you to notice. We did it on what is that club? It's mental hospital right there. On the corner of Broad and Long and High. There's a East. Yeah, the kids go there, and some of the men are in a men's group. So Kat was painting a picture of her boo, her boyfriend, husband, his daddy, and the niece. And one of the people from the place came by the next day and painted an eye in there because he left no face on it. And I'm just saying, they felt they had a right to go fix it for Kat. And I'm just saying, they were walking by telling us how to paint the picture, and you know, I'm just saying and then one guy was mad at me because he said, why didn't I paint Jesus on the wall? I said, we are the manifestation of Jesus. We're the extension of Jesus. We're hugging each other because we care about each other. And it was just like you met all these people with all these arguments that if you really get around, people cussed us out and threw things at us, like she said. I didn't realize at the end of the night where Lisa and them was painting, they were coming down the street going, Black Lives Matter real, and it was very, very, very surreal. And but all of a sudden, the 5 o'clock hour came, so the people that worked downtown was packing up, putting the water away, and leaving. But we wasn't finished. So me and Francesca and Shelby was still out there, and suddenly we noticed everybody was gone. And we heard the chants of people coming down. But if you looked in the faces, I've seen all kind of people with a look of sheer desire to see something changed. And if you could see that, it affects you in a way, because I knew a guy that was going to college, Invento, who had, his brother had killed himself, and he was a student teacher at Whitehall. And he's out there, and that's the first time I've seen him since he experienced that, because you know you're trained to be professional, and then so when somebody suddenly gets a call that their brother killed herself, since you're professional, you don't hug nobody, but I don't know about being professional. I just hugged him, and I felt this kinship to him. So when I seen him out there, it's just, that's what, the thing never really ends. The people are, you understand?
I want to say to that all art is important. So every voice is important. There's a continuum. Where you place yourself as an artist, just be aware that you're on the continuum. Where I am speaking to the oppressor, but I don't want to soothe their feelings. I want them to be engaged and think about and learn something about something not of them. That is all I can do with my power as a designer and as an artist. And I feel like I'm well placed there. But yes, I do visual art that is soft and, you know, gentle in the world, but there's a big statement behind it usually. And then there's those in-your-face kind of quote kind of things. But that's who I am, and I completely accept the people that would will paint a bloody scene, and not that, see, I can't even say it. Epitated person. I don't like to paint violence or draw violence, but there are a lot of people that do, and it's cathartic for them, and it's important for them to do that, and it will engage with one person, just like Donna said. We're all trying to touch someone in what we do, including ourselves. So it's cathartic for us, but it's also awareness that we are connecting with someone else who has that issue or thought. So I just wanted to wrap that up because Richard went, you took us on a whole journey. And it was so many important and emotional things that are touching on that continuum. Because what I heard you saying is everything along that. We do need to talk to the oppressor. We can't just talk amongst ourselves. We do need to engage and build hope, but we also need to recognize that this is work that we're doing to make a change.
I heard Coach Keith Neal say at one point, if you go out and protest and can't go home and treat your wife or kids nice, stop.
Yep.
So even your protest has to come from a place of love. It's not just bitterness and anger. Anger needs to be harnessed, and anger is strategy. Real strategy does not just throw things and cuss people out and break out windows. At one point, that isn't the only resolve. Like, it's literally the reason why I got my assignment, I believe, when the LA riots happened, and when every time when I talk about Rodney King or Reginald Denny and get them all thrown up in my head, because, and then think of the stream of that is, it was devastating. It wasn't a video game. I didn't play video games. I didn't know how to move. I'm trying to raise a family. I'm trying to go to work. I'm trying to be an artist. And then I literally said, God, how do I respond? My question is, how do I respond? Not anybody else. And I just heard it come from my humanity. I didn't know how that looked, but I noticed that when Ohio State lost the basketball game in '92, when that happened, these different race people hugged each other. As a matter of fact, I watched a lady in Cleveland get house on fire. She jumped out a window. These white cops were helping her. I mean, I looked at the humanity, the human condition, and watched that many times. When we get to the worst situations, we cry out. We cry out like the handwriting on the wall. It's just going to come out. It's out of our abundance. So it's like my assignment was simply to comfort humanity. And I don't know really how that looks, but it looks many ways. So it's like it became frozen at these people. And I actually have heard people tell me this work will never sell in corporate over and over. I've heard people say things about stuff like that. And I still paint it. And I didn't paint it for them to tell me that. And as a matter of fact, we're all told what ain't worth a thing. And whatever's told, we just keep going to what we know. And I'll die doing what I've been shown to comfort humanity. And it's these people that hug and embrace. And I've seen a lot of things from this come. But yeah, I'm sorry to go on and on.
No, that's good.
Well, on that note, I think that's a good place to wrap up our program. I'm sorry if there were any questions we didn't get to. But thanks again to Zach Parrish and everybody at the Bexley Public Library. Thank you to Jamie Goldstein and everyone at Greater Columbus Arts Council. Thank you to Lisa Duarte and Donna. And thank you all for being here and for everybody that's tuning in online. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you, Chris.